started. Welcome to the meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust. Today is Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025. And this evening we have members Mary Ann and Angus, Matthew, and Anna. So we do have a quorum to be able to start the meeting. I believe member Sue will not be joining us this evening, so Mark will be late, and Mr. Bartlett should be joining us as well, I would expect. So, given that we have 4 members, and because we do have some additional work to do regarding Durkee tonight with MHP, I want to go ahead and get started. So, Amy, are you available to be able to talk with us about the mini grants that are before you?
Here, can you hear me?
Yes, if you could speak up just a little bit, that'd be great.
Okay. All right. Yes. So I have 2 grant applications for you today. So the application number 2, this application is for a couple seeking mobility modifications within the home to improve quality of life and maximize their accessibility throughout the home. One of them has limitations with their mobility, especially with safely navigating stairs. So currently they are sleeping on the couch on the main floor, so in their living room. Quotes were received from 3 different stair lift installation companies as shown below. Oh, thank you, Maren. You scroll down, you'll see one. So they initially they were getting the quotes for main floor to the second floor so that they would be able to utilize their bedroom again. So 2 companies came in, those first 2, company 1 and company 2, came in for just that one stair lift being in the ballpark of $5,000 and one being $4,665. A third company came in and they had given them an estimate lower, much lower, where they could actually get one for them to be able to access the basement as well. So they were getting essentially 2 for the same price as these other 2 companies were giving them for 1. So having both stair lifts will increase their independence within the home and allow access to the basement to monitor and make sure everything is working properly. This is a couple I had previously discussed to clarify their home being in an irrevocable trust, not making them ineligible for this program. They own and occupy their home in Littleton and assume all financial responsibilities such as maintenance and property taxes, etc. It was later disclosed that there is another property, a cottage in Maine, included in that irrevocable trust that the children assume financial responsibilities for. This cottage is for personal use only by the family members. It is not an income producing property. I would like to note that the applicants do not utilize the cottage due to mobility limitations, accessibility barriers. So they aren't utilizing it. It's more the family that's utilizing it. So that's why they assume most of the financial responsibility. So that's application number 2. Was everybody able to hear that all okay?
Yes, we
okay.
Members, any comments or questions?
No. Seems like a great use of the project, of the program.
Yeah, agreed. I think this is exactly what we had in mind.
Yeah. Hi, this is Angus. I think it's more of a health and safety issue, and they're not requesting for an excessive amount, and we've ruled out any involvement of the main property. So looking at their age and their mobility issues, I think that this is one that we really should approve. So I move a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion from Angus and a second for Matthew. Any further discussion? All right, if not,
just one question. Are we approving one of the proposals, or do we 1, 2, or 3 here?
No, we're approving the least, the proposal with the least costs. That's the one that's going to, where is it now?
So,
Amy, what was,
Amy, can
So-
you please reiterate the amount that we are approving right now?
So what we are approving based on the recommendations from the building department was for the cost of company number 3, which is the 2 lifts, so that they're able to monitor their basements. As we all know, when you're in a home, you need to monitor all water, like make sure there's no water coming in, make sure your foundation is, not having any leaks anywhere. So this allows them to be able to do that, as well as accessing laundry, safely, especially as they age. So, and he felt like it was a no-brainer to move forward with doing the 2 for the $6,995.
yeah, I would
And
agree with
that's
that
well-
since it comes below our limit.
It's well below the 7,500 limit that we're supposed to, and I think that it makes sense to go with that.
Yep.
Agreed.
So, Mr. Angus, would you like to reframe your motion, or you
Right,
good?
I'll go ahead and do that. I propose a motion to approve to this couple the itemized estimate number 3 for $6,995 to repair the lifts to fit their home main floor and basement.
All right.
Sorry, just before I second that, was the amount on the application actually $7,000?
No, 6,995.
Estimated costs for the 2 stair lifts is $6,995.
Then I will second the motion.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. So, all in favor, Marianne,
Yes.
Angus,
Yes.
Matthew,
Yes.
and Anna's a yes. And Bartlett, we'll have you take a look at the next one. Okay.
okay,
All right. So, application number 2 for the housing mini grant program is approved. Thank you, Amy. Would you like to go on to the number 3?
Yes. All right. So application number 3, this is 71-year-old male who resides alone, seeking help with replacing his deck. The existing deck is a safety concern. The condition is poor and deemed unsafe. Volunteers offered to assist the resident, knowing he was not able to afford the cost to repair or replace the deck, and were able to reinforce the stairs as a temporary fix to help with when this was brought to the department's attention. So this was actually one of those, the stars aligned, because this is one of the gentlemen that I was thinking of when when this grant became a possibility. So this particular individual was in mind. The building commissioner, Henry, actually went out and actually reviewed the job to help give pointers to him on what to say to the contractors so that he could get some estimates for replacing the current deck. So the gentleman received 4 different estimates, and those all came in far too high for him to be able to afford them. They were around 16 and 18,000 to replace the existing deck. So
Excuse me, Amy.
yep.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. Mark just texted. He would like to be promoted into the group. Thank you.
yeah, thank you for the heads up.
Okay. Keep going, Amy. Thank you.
Okay. So since those estimates were too high, we kind of brainstormed and talked about getting revised estimates. The way that this house is set up, there's 2 sliders and a main entrance door to the home on that exterior wall. And so the deck was extending beyond all of them. And you'll see in my notes, it was like a 23-foot by 9 deck. So I had talked about, let's see if we can finagle this a little bit so that we can make sure you have safe entry to your home. So we had the estimates revised to maybe not go to beyond the second slider that's on that same exterior wall, and there is a way to safely secure so that nobody falls out of that other slider. So there are let's see if the reduced the one of the estimates, we got two different estimates. The two of the contractors, I apologize, two of the contractors were not willing to move forward with providing different estimates, and two of them were. So the reduced deck size from one of them was from 23 by 9 to 12 by 9. So if you look down at those estimates, you'll see the 12 by 9 deck for 8,350, and the other one is for 12 by 8 for 13,330. The contractor that had provided the first estimate was also going to remove a Juliet deck on the second floor, which is for a slider for the bedroom, I believe, and secure that safely because of the structure concerns there. So the estimate one includes a lot for that 8,350 to improve the safety for this gentleman. So, and Henry did get back recommending the proposal by contractor, the estimate from the contractor for the estimate one. I don't think I missed anything.
Okay.
I did note that, with the remaining balance being around 850, we are looking to come up with resources to help assist with those costs. And I do think that we would be able to do that. But there is that concern too. As you can see from this gentleman's annual income, it's $25,332 a year. He has no assets. So that's what he has to work with to survive. So we will be looking into resources to help with that remaining amount.
All right.
So
Thank you. Go ahead.
So
Any question?
I was just going to make a comment. I think this is also a really good case, and thanks to the building inspector for being helpful and creative here. Could we approve this on the condition that we're able to secure the additional $850? I'm confident that you will, Amy, but I think for the purpose of tonight's meeting, maybe we could approve it with that condition. Would that make sense?
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you, Marianne.
Yeah,
Any other comments or questions?
that's a good idea. Let's add that as a condition.
All right. Any questions on the content of it? All right. So, who would like to state the motion to approve this with the condition?
So I will make the motion that we approve this application for a total of $7,500 on the condition that an additional $850 is funded prior to construction.
I'll second.
So we have a motion to approve application number 3 for the mini grant program, with Matthew making the motion and Marianne seconding. Any further discussion? Okay, if not with that, then let's vote whether to approve this or not. Marianne?
Yes.
Angus?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
Bartlett?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Anna's a yes. So Amy, this one is also ready.
Perfect. Thank you very
Best of luck
much.
with the additional funding. And just to confirm, we have no LRAP applications for this evening, correct?
Not at this time.
Okay, terrific.
Amy, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Do you anticipate more of these grants showing up? Because it seems like this is happening much faster than the LRAP did as far as people asking for money.
Yes, I've been very busy this week. I feel like the awareness of this program has spread like wildfire, for lack of a better phrase. So I've got a few more applications that are already out, with just basic information, letting them know about it and what the eligibility criteria is, and waiting on that initial step for them to submit it. But there's been a lot more calls regarding it this week.
Thank you.
within the last couple weeks, actually. So, last week and this week.
All right. Well, we will have our regular meeting in less than 2 weeks, so maybe we'll see you again.
Yes.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you.
All right. So members, now we are on to the next final topic of our evening, which is around Durkee. So I trust everybody received the email that was sent out explaining that we currently do not have an RFP to review this evening, but that we do have much more conversation with Laura. And Maren, if you see Chair Stein from Historical Commission, feel free to promote her as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello and welcome, Laura and Shelley. Good to see you both. Thank you for your patience as we got through some new mini grants that we are awarding to folks here in town. Oh, Linda, you're muted. Sorry.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, not muted.
So welcome.
Thanks. So we kind of have a lot to talk about today. I did do a back of the envelope financial feasibility for looking at the number of units that could be produced on the land and whether or not that's financially feasible given snapshot in time, given what's available for subsidies, and looking at revenue and of course the high costs of construction. I looked at a rental project for 9 units, which was kind of pushing the 9 3-bedrooms, and then that was kind of pushing the number of bedrooms based on the septic system. But we don't have a calculation yet as to what a innovative system would allow, but they usually allow 50% more. So that's what I was basing it on. And I used new construction numbers and thinking that 9 units would fit in one building, and did not look at least initially, did not look at the conversion of the barn because of the cost really to do that. So I thought looking at a straight 9 units in one building or townhouses or something would give me a ballpark idea of where this stands. And the closest I could get, there's over a $2 million gap. And that's accessing what's available now from the state, and not charging anything for the land. So there's a significant gap in that. It also brings up the question of access and parking, but we'll put that aside for now. If we don't, use the barn, have the barn as part of the development. So then I looked at what a home ownership project, given the same kind of parameters, 9 3-bedroom townhouses, and I can pretty much make that work financially, mostly due to the high incomes in Littleton or the MSA that you're in, and looking at 5 at 100% area median income and 4 at 80%. And, you know, given I'm within $80,000 or so, which basically is a break even, allowing for profit and other, the other expenses. So that's
When you
kind
say allowing for profit, does that mean that you would look at the home ownership with a for-profit developer, or you just mean what's remaining?
regardless of whether it's for profit or nonprofit, they need a profit.
Right, right.
So it's not exorbitant. But it's not break even. If it was break even, it would be infeasible because no one would do it if they didn't have enough money to, pay their overhead and then have money for the next project. So, and some reserves.
That $2 million gap that you talked about, could you describe a little bit more for us as to what resources you're looking at? I know that we had talked with Linda Stein about some resources that the historical component might have. So would you mind just kind of a quick rundown of that?
Right. I did not take that into consideration because I didn't think that the historic money, maybe it would pay for the total conversion of the barn into units. And I didn't really know how much money that was anyway. So that was the trade-off on that. And then I just maximized what a developer could expect from HLC, the State Department of Housing and Livable Communities, based on a 9-unit development. They maximize about $100,000. They say $100,000 per unit with their soft debt. So it's a loan that acts like a grant. It doesn't get paid back for 40 years. If it gets paid back, no interest, no payments. So it acts like a grant, but it's a loan. And that's really the only, because they do have a maximum, even though they have a lot of different buckets, the buckets together can give you $100,000 per unit.
Got it. Okay. So I wanted to bring up the historical aspect. About a year ago when we went to the annual conference, there was a presentation about the state group that would have dollars available for historical projects. I can't think of the name of it right now. And then Linda had indicated that there was a potential of using our local CPC dollars that she has in her bucket. So
Yeah,
I just didn't know if that was something that could be at least discussed.
you want me to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, go ahead. Thank you.
So we have money in our CPC funds for historical preservation. I think this is a ballpark, but I think we have about 700,000, maybe more. I don't know that we would want to use all of that for this project. So for the moment, let's say half, maybe more. So it's not, certainly not going to meet the $2 million gap. Then there is, on the state level, I can't think of the name either. I don't know whether Maren, you know what it is, maybe.
Mass Historic Commission.
No, I know, but they have a certain program.
Oh, yeah.
I can't think of the name right now, but there is a program to apply for that. I think this would fall under. And I don't remember. I think they have a fair amount of money for projects, although it is competitive. But I'll find out the name of it and I'll get back to you all.
They do have historic tax credits. My concern would be that
Right.
with either CPA or Mass Historic, you do have to meet the Secretary of the Interior standards. And that usually means not disturbing the exterior of the, at least what is visible by the road.
Does it really? Well, we should look into that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it means not disturbing the exterior, because the federal standards usually allow rehabilitation.
Right.
So strict.
Right.
So they probably would have something that for rehabilitation that would be different than preservation, which is stricter. But I can look into that as well.
All right.
So
Well-
if you don't mind, I do have one question. Laura, did your cost estimate include or exclude the existing farmhouse?
Excluded.
So without the existing farmhouse, there was a $2 million gap for a rental development of 9 units on the remainder of the property.
Yes. Yeah. So that's what it looks like right now. You could, right now, it looks like the only path is home ownership. You could possibly pick away at, the gap. You just have to kind of get it close, because these are all, generic numbers. They're not, I didn't get estimates for this. This is, kind of the back of the envelope that you do to make sure that, it passes the smell test. So, there's some things you could think about doing, to pick, like I said, to pick away at it, whether you look for a small or, are you a housing choice community?
Yes.
And I don't know what the town's asking for housing choice, if they are. But you could, apply for, say, the infrastructure, connecting the water and for the septic system, and, for access. That's something that, you can apply for from the it's not called the One Stop.
Yeah, it's through the
One Stop
one
Plus.
for housing
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah, for housing choice. So those are kinds of the things that you can do to reduce the cost to the developer and take them off the, take them off the board. They add up. They don't add up to 2 million, but you're picking away at it. You could make it a modular project, which would reduce the cost and reduce the, you could preference it for a modular project. So that reduces the carrying costs. It reduces the cost of the buildings themselves, usually. There's more, as you know, because there's one right in your town, there's more factories around than there were even 2 or 3 years ago in Massachusetts. So that's another option. And you could put that in the RFP that, you'd be open to, or you'd preference modular construction. And that would attract modular developers, which there are many that that specialize in that.
Laura, I have a question regarding, still going back to the point where you're saying that that the only path is via home ownership. So when you were talking with us, I believe it was the first time, and you indicated that in the marketplace, there wasn't a lot of opportunity really for home ownership. And so I'm a little surprised that it's a complete turnaround. I'm hoping you can explain that a little bit more.
Sure, I actually was pretty surprised myself. There's not a lot of subsidy for home ownership. But with the median incomes and the incomes that are allowed under the programs, under the limits of CPA, the 3-bedroom units are like, even as condos, I built in condo fees because I figured they'd all be on the same parcel of land. The 3 bedrooms were like $375,000 or $400,000, which is getting close to what the cost is to build. And, they're not big 3 bedrooms, but they're, townhouse size 3 bedrooms. And so I was surprised myself that it came out, but I'm used to seeing sales prices in the 270 to 300 range. So adding that extra amount close the gap that I typically see. So, and I do think you can, it wouldn't happen as fast as you wanted it to happen, but you could peck away at the rental, but there's no guarantee that it's gonna work, or that anyone's gonna take you up on it. There never is, but that's what I'm seeing right now.
So Laura, sorry, just a quick question. So for the rental and the homeownership, you said you did not include the house. Is that right?
No, I did not include the house.
So what happens to the house? Is it subdivided or is it just not used?
Yeah, I think it's subdivided and sold.
And Laura, what was the reason you didn't include the house?
Because it needed a lot. As I read, it looked like it needed a lot of renovations to make it livable, and it was a septic system for 3 bedrooms, and there's lots of extra room in there, so it doesn't lend itself to an affordable rental or ownership.
So the sale of that property, the subdivided property, then could contribute to helping to close the gap.
Yes.
Is that the idea? Okay.
Yes.
Laura, I have a question. When you were doing your back of the envelope rental versus ownership, did you use the same sort of income level for the residents, the 100% AMI and the 80% AMI?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So it was apples to apples.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. It was, I started lower, but
Right.
I was trying to increase the revenue. So, and, you could make more 100 unless, you have to have, I get mixed up with all the people I talked to. I think we thought that this was going to have to be a 40B. Is that right?
That's how you had couched it, perhaps it could be a friendly 40B. Yeah.
Yeah. It'd still be a 40B. So 25% would have to be at 80% or below. So there'd have to be 3 minimum at 80%. So we could add 100, which would close at $25,000 or so. It's something, right?
Well, I think that what you've shared is a lot. And I would actually like to ask Chair Stein, what do you think about this? Because if this particular proposal doesn't include any historical component to it, what does that mean for the commission?
Well, if I understand your question, I mean, the Affordable Housing Trust has to do whatever you have to do to make this work. We certainly would like historic preservation as part of this, but, I understand that maybe that won't work. But, yeah.
Yeah, I really didn't have any ideas about what to do with the barn, so. But I think it would cost more to convert the barn than it would to build new.
Bartlett,
What would you do with the barn? Would you want to demolish it? I guess you have to talk about that.
I don't know. I didn't have an answer for that.
Well, if already subdividing the property, the barn could go with the house, right?
Right. Right. We just have to make sure that there was enough room for access or easements over, in order to get access to the surplus land.
And if you subdivide both, would there still be enough space and for septic and everything for the 9 units?
Is the land behind it conservation?
There's a little bit of conservation along one edge, but most of it's wetlands that is not conservation, but it's
not
protected by conservation.
Okay, if it's protected by conservation, then you can use it in your calculations for septic. So it depends what your Board of Health says.
Yeah.
Sometimes some only want upland, but a lot allow anything that's in conservation because it can't get built on.
Right.
So we can look at that. See what's upland.
Yeah.
Mr. Harvey, you're the lead on this project.
Yeah, I've been trying to get Joe Cataldo to walk through the barn with me because he has just developed a barn in Littleton for market housing, and he has no interest in doing anything affordable, but he knows about. I mean, he's just been through a barn, so I wanted to get him in there and just talk to him about what it would cost to take the internal floors out and build new ones. You've got the shell, which is, I think, pretty solid. And I mean, it is going to be expensive because the shell is really the only thing you have. But because you got to do all the insulation and the mechanicals and the windows and stuff. So if the floors can be made to have a sufficient floor to ceiling on 2 levels, then I think we could go, for a reasonable cost, then I think we could go ahead with the barn. But I really need to talk to him, and we've been playing phone tag, and each of us has canceled several meetings because of conflicts. So right now it's scheduled for Monday next week.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, Joe Cataldo did 12 Robinson Road, and it was historic preservation. So he, keep that in mind that he wasn't able to do that. I imagine it does increase the cost, but he did figure out how to do it.
Yeah. No, I think he'd be a useful
And it
voice to
was
hear.
really, it's just the exterior for 12 Robinson. He really redid the interior entirely.
Right.
Well, and I do want to reiterate that if Mr. Cataldo goes through there, he should not be looking to, participate in anything in.
Right. He agreed that he would sign a document to that effect.
So I'd like to get other members' thoughts on what we've heard so far.
In the interest of not making perfect be the enemy of good, I guess I would be in favor of this, but it's not what I had hoped for, I suppose. I think 100%, 80% AMI is still very significant. It does perhaps fill a need, plugs one of the holes that we have in our inventory. But it's frustrating that, giving someone everything we have, it's still, and all of the incentives, you still can't make it work to make an affordable house. So not sure how I feel about that. I also understand if this is what we have, this is what we have, and better to do something than nothing. And we have been sitting on this property for like 2 years now.
One.
Only one?
Yeah,
Well,
we acquired it December 2023.
Right.
Yeah, it was sat on prior to that.
Right.
Yeah, by others.
Can you remind me how much CPA you used?
To buy the property?
Yeah.
$50.
$50.
Okay. The barn that was converted, was that converted to condos or rentals?
Condos, I believe.
Condos.
Hmm.
Yeah, two ownership in the, one in the historic house, one in the historic barn that was attached, and a new duplex, behind that. So we got 4 market rate units. The Historic Commission was able to place a, preservation restriction on, I believe, the house and barn.
Mhm.
And when the property was sold from the town to the developer, the CPA funds were reimbursed.
So
Just thinking about, if the barn could be converted and sold as market, whether that could help, but I don't know whether that's, certainly not your vision for what you wanted for this project. But
Yeah, but
the barn's not gonna last standing there empty, without some
Right.
use.
Matthew, thank you very much for your comments. We need to hear from others as well, please. What are your thoughts? Because we need to get it
So I'll
on.
share my comments. Again, not what we had hoped for, but I appreciate Laura and her expertise. I think you saved us probably a lot of months of deliberation on this. So thank you for coming back with this. It's a different demographic, I think, that we're looking at, but still to have home ownership at that price point in Littleton. I think of, first time buyers, small families, or young. I think there's definitely a need for that, and adding 9 of those in town right next to the train station, I think would still be very positive and, supporting our mission.
Angus?
Well, I'm rather quite guarded about this. The $2 million shortfall or gap is quite troubling. How do we close the gap? Repurposing the ban, should it cost that much? I mean, I'm not expecting that they're going to repurpose it to the level of the Ritz or anything like that, but certainly I'm not sure what cost goes into that, but it's a big gap to fill. And so I really don't have any options here. That means I'm not in favor of, and neither am I against, but I'll just go with whatever the group decides or approves. But I'm quite guarded about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, how about you?
So I think we should explore whether the option of potentially putting the barn and the house as one market rate for sale unit and allow potentially giving up some of our septic capacity on the property to allow the barn to be repurposed as, 2 or 3 condos. And then that would allow us to do more deeply affordables on the remaining. We probably could go below, take all of them to 80% then potentially based on, there'd be fewer units, and we'd have more funds we could apply to the project.
Bartlett?
Well, it's a hard choice, but I mean, I think I would, I want to do something. I think that we, it's our charge to get affordable housing, whatever the level, into town on this site. And if the only way we can do it is to have for sale units, then I'd go with that.
The other option is, of course, we just sell the property outright, allow it to be developed as affordable, as not as market rate units, and take the money and buy another property that might be more conducive to affordable.
So those were my thoughts, actually. I was thinking perhaps maybe just sell it to some rich person who would use it for their toy and have it deed restricted to where they can't make significant alterations, and then spend the profit somewhere else.
So, my input to this, especially based on what was just put out there about selling the property, as Mark just said about selling the property and then using all the proceeds to a future project, I am adamantly opposed to that idea. Our job here is to create more affordable housing, and all we're doing is kicking the can. And meanwhile, people go without. And so that is the absolute last thing that I would want for the trust to do. I think that our charge, speaking from the head and the heart, our charge that we said for ourselves about 18 months ago was that we were going to dispose of this property and using the rest of our charges to look at it. Are we going to create affordable housing? What would that look like, etc.? And that's why we came down this road. Still with the intention of doing something with this property so that we could get it off the town book, so to speak. from the heart perspective, it's just absolutely heartbreaking that we might lose another historical structure in town. It's just really painful. Because anybody who buys it is going to do exactly that.
No, I don't think that's necessarily true because we can already, I mean, the historical restriction is already in the works, right? So they can put a historical restriction on it. We can sell it with a historical restriction on it. We can put all those restrictions on it when we sell it.
It has a historic restriction on it, but that gives 1 year before you can demolish it.
Right.
So, 12 months later, it's gone.
Right.
But I think that also depends on how we sell it, right? We can put something, I mean, 12 Robinson Road had a historical restriction on it. We sold it and it still exists, right? There was an agreement.
Can I clarify what you're talking about? Some of you referring to the demolition delay bylaw. We can delay demolition for 1 year. That's a basic thing that can happen, and then that would be the 12 Robinson Road has a preservation restriction. Durkee does not.
Okay.
We can put a preservation restriction on the Durkee, whatever, the house, the barn, both. It doesn't have one now. We can do that, but it doesn't have one now.
Thank you.
And if we do that, then they can't rip it down, correct? Without going through the Historical Commission's approval.
And the state and the Massachusetts Historical Commission has to approve it too. Now, one thing to possibly consider is putting historical preservation restriction on the house and or barn, trying to sell it. And if it just doesn't sell with that restriction, I think we can probably take it off. I'd have to look into the legality of that, but I think that could happen.
Maybe a question for Laura and Shelley. Is there a scenario where doing that, where selling the property and buying one that's more suitable for affordable housing would actually be faster than working on the lot that we have? Or is it just going to take longer?
It might just take longer. It's hard to see, and I don't know what other land is available in the town. It would certainly, if you could do a bigger development, doesn't have to be huge, but you do have to, get some scale. That's what makes, rental projects viable and feasible. You're not alone. This is the type of development that lots of communities are looking for, is a small rental under 12 units. And it's really hard to make them work unless the town comes up with $2 million or something like that. And we've tried to get special funding sources just for small units, but they also tend to per unit cost more because you're spreading it out. You're spreading the fixed costs, or they have to absorb it in fewer units.
So Laura, given what you've just heard from all of the members and Chair Stein from the Historical Commission, what do you propose next? And I'd like to say this, and I think I mentioned it at the very first meeting. This is our first venture that truly is significant with affordable housing. And so that's one of the reasons why we sought out subject matter expertise, such as that from you and MHP. So I think that it is important that you understand that you have a lot of folks who have a lot of thoughts about what we'd like to do. And I think what you're doing is bringing a reality to it, and as uncomfortable as that might be.
Thanks. Yeah, this is the worst part of my job when this happens, because I did have hopes that we could make it work. I think looking at, because you are invested in this property, and well, you should be, you got it for affordable housing. But I think looking at the house and the barn as a package deal, if you can put a historic preservation restriction on it, I do it. And that may mean, it may take you a little bit longer to sell it. But then you're selling it, for a community public purpose. And that's okay. That's okay, because it's has meaningful contribution to your community. And then I'd look at the remaining land as I think I'd look at it as home ownership, and at the same time try and see, this is new to you. It's not that old to me. To go through and see if how much, do a little bit of research, see how much you can save with modular. Could you do 8 units modular and rental and close that gap a little bit more? And then also take a look at, can you squeeze the state for a little bit more than 100,000? That's up to the developer really, but we can get, some thoughts from the folks that make the decisions. So I wouldn't take anything off the table right now for the new development side, but and also look at access, because you'd hate to go down the road and not be able to access it or have any parking at all. I think though it kind of lends itself to townhouses, so you can have parking spaces at each residence, so you're not looking at a parking lot that tends to take up space with turning and everything else. So you're looking at spaces rather than a parking lot. So that's what I'd look at. I think we can do some research and some work in the next couple weeks. And you guys can think about what you heard tonight and the different options. And then when we come back, we can start thinking about parameters for what you'd like to see. And start to move forward with whichever, whatever path you think would be best. Well, in the meantime, we'll do a little bit more research, and then we can think about, RFP or how we probably going to have to get an engineer in anyway to verify calculations for septic, so we know how many bedrooms it can for capacity, and where you might subdivide the land and what that means with that easement, whether you can build in the 40-foot setback from the road or if that's owned by the road. Maren, you may know that. I just noticed it says setback, and I didn't know whether that's just a zoning setback or more like a road easement. So that's what I would say the next steps would be. I don't want to jump into starting to craft an RFP until everyone's sure of how we want to move forward. And I think it takes a little while to settle.
Yes, I would agree with that. So, when you say that you're going to go and do research, specifically on, you said you were going to go and do more research, and I was just saying specifically on,
Cost for modular,
okay.
and just kind of going through the QPR, which is the state's qualified allocation plan. So what funds are out there, and then see under housing choice, what kinds of funds you could, possibly get from Housing Works. It's an application through the town, but it can be dedicated to a development. So, and I've had projects that have used it for the project septic system, their access, and their driveway, roadway, whatever. So you can, like I said, you can chip away at it. Because then even if it still isn't a rental project, if you can bring it down to 80% units, that will, further it, that would be furthering your mission.
Mm-hmm. All right, so given our previous conversation, there was an outstanding task for us to do, which was to have had a vote on the disposal of the property. And that became a discussion as to whether or not that particular motion needed to say disposition of the property for affordable housing or not. So did you have any recommendation on that? I know folks are supposed to talk to town council, but it doesn't sound like that came together.
No, not yet.
Given that wasn't a imminent vote that the trust had to make, we have a discussion set up for, I believe, next week, or
I think so.
okay, with Bartlett and Mark and town council.
So Laura,
Typically it's a vote for the disposition of the land with the restriction for affordable housing, and that typically allows you to do some market or some above what is capital A affordable. That's the way I see it in most votes. So, but if you're already going to be having the discussion, have the discussion with council, and since I'm not a lawyer,
understand,
okay,
but you do have experience.
I do.
So Bartlett, in terms of as the lead on the project, what would you say the next steps are that you want to take, and then that others can assist with as well?
Well, the discussion with town council about how we phrase things. There's a company, Triumph Trailer on Air Road, also does modular housing. I'm going to go in and talk to that guy to see what he has to say about our situation.
They do a different type of modular, not housing.
No, it is housing. I was in there once and I saw it.
Reframe?
What?
Reframe?
I don't know who it is, who
Okay.
does it.
Okay.
Sounds like the type, is that a type of modular housing?
It's a company.
Oh,
Company.
okay, got it.
It's in Littleton. I can't tell you where it is, but it's in Littleton.
Oh,
I've been
Lab-
there. I've
Lab
been there.
9 is the one that we visit.
Oh, okay.
Modular 9. Wow, we have quite a few then.
yeah.
Can I ask a clarifying question of Laura? So if we don't subdivide the property, since we bought it with CPC funds, can we sell the whole thing? Say, you can we're expecting you to rehab the house. You can put X number of bedrooms in the barn and then, Y number of affordable units and look for one developer that does the whole thing? Or are we required to subdivide this since we use CPC funds to purchase it and have to sell off the house and the barn if they're going to be more market rate?
So yeah, if you use CPA for the land, then everything that you produce on the land has to be affordable. I think Shelley, help. I think the only way you could do it is to at least pay back. I don't know. Shelley,
Yeah,
help.
it's definitely tricky because the statute suggests that when you purchase a real property interest, you're supposed to put a restriction on it in perpetuity for the purpose in which it was bought. So technically, it should have been restricted for affordable housing when it was purchased. That usually doesn't happen. So that's what's tricky. The statute though does allow that monies be deposited in the Community Preservation Fund, and one of them is proceeds from the disposal of real property acquired with funds from the Community Preservation Fund. So it does seem to allow you to sell what you bought, but because Section 12 says that there should be a restriction on real property for the purpose in which you bought it, it seems as if the property should be restricted for affordable
So that's
housing.
apparently another question we should ask town council next week.
Yes. Yeah.
So yes, Mark, if you and Bartlett, when you have that conversation, can talk that through, that would be very helpful.
Unless, was it bought for historic preservation as well, where maybe
No.
it's like subdivided where some of it is historic and some of it is affordable, or no? It was just affordable. Yeah.
So to
Yeah,
your
town
point,
council will have to work that.
So
Yeah,
we can sell it for historic preservation to historical people and put the $50 in, and then they can deal with it. That part.
No, no.
So I did want to point out to what Shelley just referenced, which could be important and impactful on anything that we do. So let's say, for example, it does get sold. Those dollars have to go back into our CPA fund and presumably into the housing bucket. But the CPC is a completely different entity than us, and there's no saying that what they do with that money means it's going to automatically get returned to the Affordable Housing Trust. It's not a guarantee.
That's true, but maybe the CPC and the Affordable Housing Trust could discuss that ahead of time and come to some agreement. Bartlett, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I think having an agreement would work. I think that from my experience, the CPC is pretty good at following strings or attachments to donations. I mean, they've not questioned it. They've just gone ahead. If somebody donates for a purpose, it goes into that bucket.
I think it also is something you could talk with town council about, just add to like what would be the proper way to handle that.
And the same must have been true with 12 Robinson Road, that when we sold it, the money had to go back to the general CPC and not to historic, but
No, it had to go back to historic. So I think this money would also have to go back to the Affordable Housing Trust. I don't know whether the fact that you only paid $50 out of CPC funds, if that would affect anything or not. Probably not. Probably would have to go back to the Affordable Housing. Or
So if there's a precedent
housing
where
CPC fund.
if there's a precedent where historic did not go back to the CPC, then it's may follow for the trust as well.
No, there isn't
So
a
if you-
precedent for that. It did go back to historic.
But I'm saying it went back to historic and not to the CPC, even though it was
No,
CPC.
no, it was no, I'm sorry. It's the CPC historic fund.
Oh, the
that
historic.
went
Okay,
back
I'm
to.
sorry. Yes. So,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's
so
okay.
okay. So the precedent is that it goes back to CPC. Yeah. And that's how like the state CPC would interpret it as needing to go back to this. I'm sure that he would interpret it as needing to go back to the CPA fund as well.
But I think the question is, does $50 have to go back, or does the whole selling price have to go back?
The statute says proceeds from the disposal of real property acquired with funds from the Community Preservation Fund. It does not say just the amount that
Just the
was.
amount that was used.
Yeah, it says, yeah.
Okay.
So, all right. Thank you for all that input. So the conversation or our next steps, Bartlett and Mark, disposition of the land, what would a motion be, and what does it include? Then whether or not using the CPA dollars require any sale that were to happen to go back into CPC, and if so, does it go back directly to the housing bucket, or how does it need to be entered back in? And then do we get the $50 only, or the full proceeds of any sale for the housing bucket?
Yeah.
And then how do we get it back to the trust? So lots of questions to follow up on there.
Right.
Bartlett will talk with modular housing entities like Triumph. Bartlett, you and I can talk with CPC. We can talk with Carolyn or go to that board meeting.
Yeah.
Linda, may I impose upon you to look into the what was it that we said? The restriction.
Placing a historic restriction on the two buildings.
Housing preservation restriction.
Yeah, look into it in what way? I mean, yeah.
Like
We-
what is the process and what we need to do, or if you already know what that entails,
Yeah.
would you be sharing that?
Yeah, okay. I'll outline what the process is.
Okay, great, thank you.
Is the process already in the works, Linda? I thought you guys asked CPC money to make start that process.
Yeah, yes, I think at town meeting, that is one of the CPC items yes, that's going to town meeting.
And are the house and the barn both covered, or are they separate, or are they two? Is it one or two items?
I think it's both the house and the barn. I have it right here. Let me take a quick look. Oh, I don't have it right here. I think it is both the house and the barn, but I have to check.
Okay.
Do you want to explain a little bit more about that, Linda? Just to all
About
the other
this?
members who don't know about it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have my proposal in front of me to the CPC, but what I remember is we requested money from the Historical Commission requested money from the CPC, and the CPC has recommended it to town meeting. We're asking for funds to hire a historic preservation consultant to assist the Historical Commission to it says to develop an RFP, so that's different right now, but we can't really change the language will probably stay the same, but so essentially to help us develop language that we would include in a future RFP and a historical preservation restriction on, all I have down here is 260 Foster Street. I'm pretty sure it includes the house and the barn. So the preservation consultant would help us write the preservation restriction for the house and the barn. We'd probably use the same person that used for 12 Robinson Road.
Okay. Great, thank you for all that information.
And And that happens before the RFP, during the RFP process?
Well, the preservation restriction has to be part of the sale. It has to be part of the closing. So we have time to write it. If the Affordable Housing Trust decides that you want historical preservation restrictions on the house and or barn, we can go ahead and do that. We have time before it's actually needed. It needs to get approved by the state, so that takes some time. But is that right, Laura? It doesn't really have to be finished until
That's
the
right.
sale?
Yeah.
Yeah. However, we have, as you kind of know, we started looking at Westford's RFP, and our consultant and I have
You froze up, Linda. Oh, we still can't hear you.
which we've shared with the Affordable Housing Trust.
Linda, you really cut out like 30 seconds ago, so we haven't been able to hear anything you were saying.
Can you hear me now?
It's very blurry. Maybe if you take your video off, sometimes that helps.
Can you
try it
hear
again.
me?
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
That was weird. I didn't even touch my computer.
Yeah, no, now it's still garbled. I'm so
So just to finish up, can you still hear me? Sorry. Let me try to open my door. Can you hear me now?
well, you just muted yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. If it happens again, we'll just stop. But I shared a list with the Affordable Housing Trust of what we might consider including in the RFP for historic preservation. And that would essentially, that's what would go in the preservation restriction. So we kind of have that kind of already developed, at least a draft that you guys would have to agree to.
Okay. Great. All right. Well, thank you, Linda, for bringing us up to speed on all that and for working on it. All right. Anything else that we should add to this to-do list? All right. So, Laura, I'm sorry. It looks like you were going to say something.
I was just gonna ask if you want me to send you update emails before the next time we meet.
That would be helpful. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we are meeting again in less than 2 weeks. We're meeting on, was it the 15th? That would be our regular meeting, but if you think that we would have an update by then we can keep moving forward and putting you on the agenda.
I think that's I know it's a very full day for me. I'm trying to see if oh yeah, I have to be in Boston, so I don't get home before 6:30 when I was in Boston, so I probably would not be able to be at that meeting.
All right.
But if I have anything to update you, I'll I'll email you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Well, in the pursuit of continuing to move this forward, then is this something that you feel that we can meet again at the beginning of April, or excuse me, beginning of May, or should we wait until our May meeting? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah. I think beginning of May, if you could get a meeting then,
Okay.
would be good.
So members, early May, late April. So we have town meeting on Tuesday, May 6th. So,
So that's not really a good night for me.
no, so that's not a good night for any of us.
Mark and I, that's true, actually, Maren as well. And Anna. And Linda.
So is your regular meeting the 13th?
Yes, our regular meeting is April 15th and then May 13th, yes. No, wait, it's the third Tuesday, isn't it?
And didn't we move that one? No, we didn't.
No.
It's the third Tuesday of the
So,
month.
yeah,
actually
it's,
be May.
right now it's scheduled for the 20th.
Mhm.
That seems like a long time away.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
I would suggest we either go for like the 29th of April,
Yeah.
if we think we'll be ready then, or May 5th. I'd hate to do the 7th because you don't know for sure the town meeting's not going to go 2 nights because there's enough things on there. There's the possibility I wouldn't want to schedule this and then have to cancel it at the last minute. So I would say either the 29th or the 5th would be the best bets.
I'm on a plane on the 29th, so you all can meet without me. Or the 30th. Anybody have encumbrances on the 30th?
30th is better for me because I'm in Boston the 29th. I could make it home in time, but the 30th is better.
I can do the 30th.
Is there anyone who cannot do the 30th?
I can do it.
Okay, so 6:30 still a good time?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go ahead and schedule that then as an interim meeting for the trust on Wednesday, April 30th, starting at 6:30 p.m. And again, this will be the focus of our meeting. All right.
Okay.
Anything else before we end this evening's meeting?
I think that I would like to talk to some realtors about selling our property and what we could buy with the proceeds, because I don't think that that's a realistic idea. I don't think we'd get very much for the 5 acres because, you know, the developer of all those houses decided that it wasn't worth his effort to build a house there. And it's a difficult site. And there isn't a whole lot of land for sale in Littleton. And, you know, the last time I checked lots, you know, building lots were going for like 250 or 300 or something. And it's probably higher now.
It's $1 million, Bartlett. Come on, it's $1 million. All right.
I agree we should do that, Bartlett. I'll work on that with you.
All right, great, thanks.
All right. Well, Laura and Shelley, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. And members, if you can just hang tight for a minute.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Any other commentary before we adjourn for the night? Okay.
Do we have I know this is going to take some time, but I don't know how long we want to spend. What's our plan on how long we're going to spend doing this? I mean, we have at least the 29th meeting, and are we hoping, do we have a goal for when we're going to either have an RFP or decide what we're going to do? Because it seems like we can drag this on for a long time.
No, I don't think that we're going to be dragging this on, Mark. And I know that you feel like you really need to be in a hurry to get this done. So don't worry. I would say that as soon as we have the next conversation with all of these different next steps, that we will be in a good position to have them start an RFP. So as far as timing, she gave us what the timing was at the first meeting. So I would say it's probably going to be a 6-month process after she gets the RFP started. I did have a conversation with Jim Duggan about the insurance, and he was going to talk with Diane Dickerson about making sure that that was getting started, that she was getting started on that, so that we have some insurance for the expiration of the current policy. So I don't know if there's anything that you can do to help on that, but we'll probably need it through the end of the year. But that's my estimate as far as getting it done. That's part of why I wanted to have the next meeting as soon as possible. I want to get it done as much as everybody else does.
What are you calling done by the end of the year? I think we need to just kind of set goals or a timeline, what we're hoping to accomplish by when, because I know I'm not trying to rush through this. I just want to make sure we're making progress in a certain, and not just spinning our wheels, right? And I do feel like we are making progress, but I don't know when we decide, it's good. We've reached a point where we have to make a decision, right? And we're going to make a decision and execute on that decision, right? We don't have enough information to make a decision yet. I just don't know when we think we will have enough, right? And be confident in that decision.
Well, so let me put it this way. We could be further along if you and Mr. Harvey had that meeting with town council. That meeting hasn't been had. So now you have even more questions to ask town council. So if each of us can make sure to get these next steps that we discussed done by April 30th, then we can have, again, a robust conversation with MHP. And I think Laura is ready to move on the RFP as soon as she has answers from us about these questions, right? I mean, she pointed us in the direction of what she's thinking of would be in our best interest. And so I think we should follow up on all of that, right? You guys are going to do town council. Bartlett's going to look at the Triumph modular, and we're going to talk to CPC so that we have an understanding of what's going to happen to any sale dollars. And Linda's going to go through her process with town meetings so that they can put that restriction on. And then you guys are going to talk with the realtors. So again, it gives us more information. And then, yeah, we have to come to a decision because it's based off of what she said. We need to be able to have, if we want to be able to have affordable units there, what I heard her say is this needs to be a for sale development. And so we have to work toward that.
Yeah, I would recommend we not lose sight of the access question as well.
Okay, so who's going to look at that?
Well, there's the access and the building that we're proposing sort of go together. I mean, it's hard to do one without the other.
Okay, so you're just saying to add it to the list, Maren?
I would recommend it be added to the list, yes.
So the other one is if we're willing to give up, affordable units to allow a developer to put units in a barn, right? And how many units would that take? And can we do that? And what that would mean for septic and everything else? And I don't know who's looking into that or how to look into that, right?
I think some of the information we got early on was not to try to design a development. You issue an RFP to get the developers' designs and their cost estimates. I think your RFP could, if you decide to issue one, could ask for, some affordable units, some market rate units, and see how that gets how the developers would outline that.
Right. If we can ask for market rate units, which we're still not sure we can. So if we assume that we can't, right, then we have two RFPs, one for selling the property, one for selling the house and the barn, and then we have to decide what we're selling with the barn, right? Whether we're selling it as a barn or as something that can be redeveloped, right? So, I mean, Bartlett and I are going to meet with town council next week. If they say we can't do any market rate units, right, then there's no clear path where we're subdividing what we would do for subdividing the property.
Right.
That anyone's looking at before the 29th. That's what I'm getting at.
Well,
So-
you still have that information, and you certainly can share it out to, share it out to Laura in terms of any feedback that you want from her, so that then provides her with the ability to give us her thoughts before the next meeting. Because remember, she said that she would give us her research information before the next meeting, right? So if you then learn something from town council, then we need to be emailing her. I mean, I firmly feel that this is a two-way conversation with Laura. So if you feel that you have information or you have additional questions, comments, like the drawing you sent Bartlett, any of that stuff should be going to her so that it can feed into her recommendations to us. So that's what I would propose for that, to keep it going, Mark. Whatever you learn, she's got to know what it is.
Okay.
So should we summarize the different options that we're pursuing now, just so we're all on the same page? Make sure we heard the same thing? Would that make sense?
Sure. So the options right now are, what, do you want to start?
Me? I can't tell who you're looking at.
Yeah, go ahead, Marianne, sorry.
So the one I heard was subdividing the house and the barn together and selling that with historic restrictions and using the proceeds of that to support affordable housing on the remaining parcel. Right? Is that one option?
Yeah.
Okay. Then the other unpopular option would be to sell the entire property and use the proceeds for affordable housing. And a third option would be to subdivide and make the RFP for the house and the barn such that there's market rate units in the barn. And then again, using the proceeds from that sale to support the affordable units on the remaining parcel.
Right.
And what else? What I heard was that we're not going to pursue the house for sure for affordable housing. Is that correct?
Yep.
And the barn, probably not? Or do we say we are not going to pursue affordable housing?
She said that she seemed to still be open to that. I mean, she said that she would reconsider if the barn could be converted and sold as market.
Well, she didn't have any affordable units in the barn as her current plan, so.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you, Marianne. So I think from the perspective of the different options, I think it's important to be clear with town council what those options are so that they can consider them as they answer the questions.
So I think that's actually the fourth option then, right, is to sell the house and use the barn and the remaining property for affordable. That's the option that she didn't really consider, right?
Because I didn't think that was on the table.
Well, she didn't look at it. She said she looked at a brand new structure, not the house, not the barn, I'm sorry.
Because she thought it would cost too much, but if they're market rate, then that could change the calculus? Potentially. I guess the other question is, though, can we separate the house and the barn?
Well,
Given the
she had
distance.
some reservations about that with the parking and the turning and all of that. It would require a larger property to do, I thought.
I was referring more to the distance between the house and the barn. I thought they were really close together and it might not be possible. Bartlett, you probably know better.
Hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the distance is a little bit over 19 feet from the house to the corner of the barn. So, I mean, it's possible to put a property line through there, but, you know, with easements, you can have, you know, access. And this parking space in front of the house, in front of that wing that sticks out. And I think that whatever parking there is for the barn would be on the uphill side of the barn. Just because the land is flat there and it's on the same level as the entrance. And the basement of the barn really is, there's so many columns in there that it's really not suitable for parking. So, anyhow.
Well, this is
Something just crossed my mind. I beg your pardon. If a property line is drawn, is it going to traverse the well? There's a well, there's some problem with a well there?
Yeah, no.
It won't. Okay.
No. Yeah, the well turns out to be a large, shallow depression that was used to water the animals that were there, and it's been filled in, and there was a 2-foot high stone wall around it, and that it's been filled in up to the top of that stone wall, and there's a layer of concrete on top of the dirt. So that's no longer an issue, and it's in directly in back of the barn, a little bit farther away from the house than the middle of the barn. It just sort of, it's. I mean, it's not an issue, I think.
Well, and any developer, I'm sure, will take a look at that and
Yeah,
address it.
it's a raised bed for gardening. You take the concrete off.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for having this additional conversation. So that meeting that you're having with town council is when?
On the 9th, whatever day that is.
The 9th is a week from today. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your thoughts.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Bye.
All right.
Everyone.